Hi, my name is Anna and this is AZ Experience Design, AZXD, where we look into how to use experience as a strategy. This is one of those methods that can help businesses to achieve whatever objectives they have by tapping into human behavior and physical space. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate this method based on my experience review of GITEX AI. It's a trade fair that happened here in Berlin. Just to let you know, this is something I do independently from anyone else. I just look into what was the experience and what can be improved. This video in particular is for two groups. The first one would be the exhibitors of such trade fairs. So anyone who goes to the trade fairs and shows and has a stand, this video is for you. How to make sure that you maximize the return of your investment, because I know that it's expensive. And the second target group this video is for is the trade fair organizers. I really want to help to improve the experience of such events because it's a little bit overwhelming, so many people, there's so many things happening, and sometimes therefore the impact that could be there gets diluted. All within the resources, by the way. For everything I do, it's not about adding more budgets, it's rather understanding what needs to be done, what are the right things to do, and do this within your resources. On that note, let's start. So we're gonna start with the exhibitors, and I have 5 points for you that can improve your participation at the trade fairs. Point number 1, clarity of the stand design. The goal is not to over-explain. It's not to give everything you've got. It's to inspire curiosity. And therefore, I highly recommend just to have one clear sentence, what you do, reflecting also who the stand should attract. And in such things, it's sort of less is more. If you overload your stand with content, models, furniture, scenes, it becomes so overwhelming that it can result into 2 things. The first one is people just don't have the capacity to come to you and learn more because they're just overwhelmed. And the second point, you might still attract people who are not relevant to you because they think, it's so much, they probably have what I need. They come and they talk to you and they probably don't need what you have. That's why always make sure you nail that one sentence. That's what I do for who. And one good example that I found at the exhibition was this: we media your brand. I was kind of curious, I knew somehow what it's about, and I wanted to learn more. And they kept the logo, they kept the brand and everything. So that's a sort of what I mean by clarity of the stand design. The whole purpose of the stand is to make it easy for people to understand, enter, stay, and engage. And keep in mind, the entire trade fair is overwhelming. Your stand should be like a breath of fresh air. Second is attraction. How do you attract people to come to you? And there's a missing link that I see all the time between the entertainment and the business funnel. So people do coffees, ice creams, maybe muffins, pants, some games here and there. But how do you benefit from such an investment? Entertainment should serve as a funnel to convert the passing by people into potential leads. If you decide to do entertainment on your stand, and I think you definitely should because it makes the entry of the passing by people easier, you should aim to get one of those 4 rewards, so to say. The first one, it's the contact details. So for example, there was stands where they had those machines to play, and you take the token to play very quickly by just scanning the QR code. They get your contact information and you get the token to play. Very smart if you target everyone at the trade fair. The second thing is the online visibility. So you should have something on your stand which is worth it to take a video or a photo of. So for example, this one, with robotics, it's much easier. But basically, if people take photos and videos, they put it online, people share you, people talk about you. In this case, you go beyond just your physical location of the stand, and even some of them might not be your target group. Maybe someone seeing you online will be. The third thing to aim for is word of mouth. So you have something on the stand that is worth talking about, worth mentioning. And the fourth thing is branding and brand visibility. So you have something on the stand that people immediately will connect your brand with. For example, as at this Dutch stand, they had ice cream, but the corns for the ice cream were orange. with the orange peel because they wanted to showcase the Netherlands and the Netherlands colors. So for me, it's just now I have it embedded in my head that we had ice cream with the orange cone, and that represents Netherlands. Now we're moving to point 3, which is a journey that happens right on your stand. Imagine that you already sparked the curiosity with your stand, then you attracted the people. Now let's convert them. And in order to do it, the entry point should be extremely easy. It should be extremely easy for people to talk to you and understand what you do and what problems you solve. And one idea I have is, and I always suggest it, you might have like this tablet that if the person comes, you can say, hey, look, we solved these problems. Do you have any of those problems? They also should answer, but at the same time, they can also interact, hey, not this, but we have that. And in this case, you can guide if you are even the right person to talk to. And kind of starting the journey with it, not like, oh, we do this, this, and that. What problem are we solving? Are those problems you're facing? And then we can move towards how we solve them. That leads me to point 4, content and authority. Even though you have a very small stand, use it as your own personal stage. Sometimes on the trade fairs is allowed, sometimes not, but maybe you can find the way around it. And using your stand as a stage, let people learn who you are. So how I suggest to do it, I would recommend to host some of the useful content for particularly your target audience that you would prior invite, or you will promote and ask your staff to talk about it and invite people. But basically you host at your stand maybe twice a day, either Q&A or keynote or a small workshop where everyone can present their problems and you show how your solution solves it. In this case, your booth is not just this passive stand, it also helps you to target particularly the group of interest for you. And point number 5, and the last one, and I'm telling this about this all the time, it's the staff and human engagement, because everything I just mentioned should be enabled by people at the stand. It shouldn't happen so that there are people standing next to your stand and no one is trying to engage with them from your staff. It happened to me all the time that I'm kind of like reading, come and help me read what you presented. So I highly recommend you to train your staff so they should know how to approach, how to open a conversation, how to qualify the interest, but also how to hand people over into the right next step. And it seems like a quick onboarding. It's more than that. So I highly recommend to make sure that you know who you put out there. To sum up, next time you organize the stand, just ask those 3 questions. The first one, who should be the right visitor? What should this right visitor see, feel, understand, do, and remember? And the third one, what should be written and done at the stand to make this happen? Or also just reach out to me, AZ Experience Design, AZXD. And now we are moving to the trade fair organizers. And here I just looked overall at the trade fair. Imagine that I'm attending as a visitor and I see what could be improved or what is amazingly done. And I have a checklist for that helps me to get this holistic view of things. This checklist includes entrance, onboarding, navigation, theme, engagement, content, and positive negative cues. Let's go through them, and just on the example of the GITEX, what in my opinion every trade fair could improve in order to overall have a better experience at the trade fair. In terms of the entrance, it's simple, everything worked, it was extremely well organized, the staff was extremely friendly. The only thing I would say is if you have a possibility to play music, which I always highly recommend, make it intentional. Don't just play random stuff, because sometimes people have different tastes and sometimes it also can be annoying. So I would rather have a music that fits the vibe of the event. Next one is onboarding. And those of you who read already my experience review of ITB, which is a hospitality trade fair that also happened in the same exhibition grounds, Messe Berlin, you saw that I very much for printed maps with a list of exhibitors. It's extremely convenient. It speeds up the entire process. However, on the GITEX, there were those big printed maps, which I found very visually clear. And they were also placed right in front of the halls. That also was very helpful. I still highly recommend the printed map because nothing beats the handwritten marks of which stands the visitor, where to go, and it really helps the orientation. Extremely just free. I'm not attached to any printed maps. I'm not attached to my phone. I just have it right in my hand and I always know where I am and who I want to visit. But since on the GITEX there was only 3, I think, halls, it's fine. This massive maps in front of the halls really did the work. And also the one thing that helps a lot, if there will be a section recommended or what GITEX recommends in terms of the content pieces and in terms of the exhibitors to visit. Because in this case, it helps position the content that you want to position or the sponsors or the specific exhibitors. And also guide how attendees spend their time in a way that benefits you. This is extremely strategically useful section. In terms of the navigation, one thing that I would highly recommend, something that was missing for me, the logic of each room, each hall. What role does each hall play in the overall story of GITEX? And that would help the navigation drastically. But it also links to the theme, which I would have to talk about later. And another thing that slowed down the navigation is that each startup or each stand per se, they have the standard design. I understand. But in this case, it's extremely overwhelming to have so many stands with the same design, and it just loses me throughout the process. So what I highly recommend is to divide or categorize all exhibitors, so particularly the startups, since we are focused on meeting between startup and investors. So I highly recommend is to split the startups across industries, and for each industry have a color. And in this case, indicate each stand with that particular color. Because if I'm curious about startups and the securities segment, in this case, I would, for example, and we assign red to it, I will look at all these red stands. Or, for example, blue for creativity. In this case, I need blue stands. It helps cognitively, it's just so refreshing. You feel like you make progress because, I talked already with 5-star security startups. Let me move to the blue stands now. So I highly recommend to do that next time. Now, the next point in our checklist is the theme. And that's something I lacked quite a lot. Theme is not just for fun. What it does, it makes people resonate with the story presented at the trade fair. And it makes every exhibitor and player feel in that story, play a role in that story. Many people attending the trade fair, they say, wow, it was so overwhelming. It's because there was not clear theme. There was not clear story that, for example, GITEX gave across the exhibition grounds. If there is not a cohesive story, in this case, everyone has their own story to bring in. Every exhibitor puts out their own message, and that's why it's so hard to consume. Moving on to the next point in our checklist, and it's the engagement. And here there were quite a few matchmaking tools that help to connect between people. I'm not gonna go into the app and the mobile app and what does it do, but I must tell that I got myself the invitations for the meetings from some of the exhibitors, which were I knew already in advance that they were not relevant, not for neither of us, but they still were there. So I felt like the meetings were just arranged purely for the quantity rather than quality. And I believe it's not done consciously. It's just the idea that you want to use the most out of your time, but since there were not maybe enough filters and enough ways of how the matchmaking could be done more efficiently, that's how the random meetings got arranged. So that's something that could be definitely improved. And again, what I mentioned about the navigation, to have the color code for the industries, that already will help drastically to find the right people for your business. Another point of the checklist is the content. And I must say the content is good. There were many different engagements in terms of the keynotes and panels and conversations. The only thing I probably missed is that section, what GITEX recommends, because it can really help me to understand what is the most important at the trade fair that I cannot miss. And now the positive and negative cues. I would start with the negatives. For me, the fact that there was not a cohesive theme across the exhibition grounds was a big one, because it creates the overwhelming feeling within that story. It was hard to navigate. So to have a theme at the trade fair will be extremely important. In terms of the cues, I really want to mention some positive ones, because the space utilization was fantastically arranged. Every space was used somehow strategically. They were used either to promote the sponsors or the stand, or there were also those relax and focus hubs and work on the go stations. So it was very good to see. And also what I liked was a space with the open media. So meaning you could see all those people working on the post, on the interviews. So it gave the vibe of the trade fair as being busy, popular, and a lot to cover, which is very, very cool. So that was the checklist for the successful trade fair. I hope it was useful. And overall impression of the GITEX, I personally appreciated how people were business driven, people driven, so many creative people, IT solutions and technologies and robotics. It's extremely inspiring. So I hope those trade fairs will continue to attract as many people as possible, because nothing will replace those in-person interactions. And those in-person interactions, they shortcut the months and months of online communication, because it builds trust so much faster. So thank you, GITEX, so much. And I hope that the exhibitors for any trade fair, as well as the trade fair organizers, can benefit from this video, improve the experience so it can really deliver this amazing return of investment. So thank you so much, and follow for more. That was AZ Experience Design, AZXD. My name is Anna. Stay tuned for more.